this module, we'll take a look at our final E of the 4 E's of modern work culture: excellence. Excellence is all about employer branding. Now, employer branding is a company's reputation as a place to work, not only in the eyes of current, but past and prospective employees as well. And employer branding truly matters. 86% of employees wouldn't apply for or continue working at an organization with a bad reputation. And according to our assessment, 87% of employees prioritize working with a progressive group of people. Now, there are many tools that companies typically turn to help develop that strong employer brand. These include strong compensation and perks, a very reputable employee experience, corporate social responsibility, and diversity and inclusion initiatives. But what matters most right now when it comes to your employer brand is how your organization did or didn't take care of its employees during the pandemic. Your COVID-19 response legacy will define your employer brand for years to come. Now, 2020 unfortunately saw record-shattering numbers when it came to job loss and unemployment. Business leaders had to make very, very tough decisions all across the world. But taking care of your employees is just as important as taking care of your customers. And on a positive note, we actually did see many employers stand up and step up in very big ways for their teams, whether that be executives taking pay cuts, offering extended paid sick leave, having more protection for those high-risk employees, and offering a variety of financial support systems for teams. We saw companies really step up where they had to. But ultimately, what's going to define your COVID-19 response legacy is compassion. And compassion, at the end of the day, doesn't cost organizations a thing. Those companies that extended flexibility, patience, and kindness will be rewarded and remembered for years to come. Now, unfortunately, there were many groups all around the world that were much more gravely impacted by the pandemic. We know that unemployment rates were much higher among young people during COVID. We know that unemployment rates were much higher among those with low-wage jobs. And we also know that those unemployment rates were much higher among people of color. 2020 will not only be a year that is defined by the pandemic. We saw social justice and inequality come front and center in massive, massive ways. And today, so many people are holding businesses and employers more accountable than ever before to make a positive impact in these areas. And this really matters to employees today. 82% of Americans report that it is important to them to work at a company making a positive difference in racial equality. But employers need to really understand what matters to their employees. It can't just be something they throw together last minute. It has to go beyond lip service. Now, Renee Myers, who is a diversity and inclusion consultant, she puts it perfectly. She says that diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance. Now, organizations need to recognize that the change they have to make, they won't happen overnight. It can't be as easy as simply flipping a switch. There has to be a lot of thought and commitment put into their efforts, but there are so many places that they can start. They can start by taking a look at pay gaps that exist within their organization, any underlying bias that may exist within their hiring strategies, and really invest in internal training and educational resources for their team. Ultimately, companies need to understand that they need to make a long-term commitment to make a lasting and meaningful change. At the end of the day, transparency with your employees is going to be your most powerful tool, not only during a crisis. Now, interestingly enough, many companies are in fact making positive strides in the areas of DEI, but they might not be doing that great of a job of actually promoting the steps they're taking. So when it comes to promoting your employer brand, make sure that you are actually doing it, specifically internally. Are you socializing the initiatives that your company is actually doing? When it comes to promoting that employer brand externally, make sure that it is a key element of your recruiting process. Employees will be keen to learn what it is your company is committed to. And when it comes to the community, well, how is your organization giving back? Last year, we saw so many companies offer paid time off to let their employees go vote and have their voices be heard. At the end of the day, this truly matters. 39% of employees would take a pay cut to move to companies that promoted causes they aligned with. So when it comes to creating that strong employer brand in the recharted workplace, employers must accept the societal role they play today, and they need to really step up. Employees are going to remember forever how they were treated during this period, and you better make sure that they remember that positively. And DEI must be a focus if your organization wants to build a strong culture, but also a better world for all of us to live in. That wraps up our module on excellence, a final homework question for you to consider. How will you use the crisis to improve your employer branding? What are your key priorities? While so much of the future still remains unknown to us, we can say with certainty that a company's culture is only as resilient as its employees. And you can build that resiliency by leveraging Trend Hunter's 4 E's of modern work culture. That wraps up our course on reimagining work culture. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to learn more or would like to access additional resources, check out the links below.